Good morning. I was going to say good afternoon actually because I felt like I was late to the party. Good morning. My name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the energies for this week with today's Monday's Musings. A day before, I feel like I'm gripping my knuckles almost, holding on, gripping on, praying. Okay. So we're going to look at that feeling of feeling as if we've missed the party. Okay, there's no such thing as missing the boat. We are where we need to be in every single moment, even if it feels like we are being left behind. That isn't the case. And what I really sense coming up to the 11:11 portal is for those that are feeling okay, just to take a moment, stop, pause, and almost wait. I feel like a tugging at my arm, almost wait for those perhaps that aren't. You know, we're all going to go through it together anyway, but just checking on our fellow man. That's what I hear, checking on our fellow man this week. The energies are intense. They really are something else out there at the moment. The other thing that I felt, I forgot what it was actually. Okay, so that's really, really interesting. You know, just calling something out for what it is this week will just help clear the rest of the debris that's left. This morning I had my cesspit emptied and I could really resonate with that and the full moon in Taurus and the lunar eclipse and just those last bits of blockages being removed so that the water can flow. With that in mind, I'm going to use the normal Rider-Waite deck today. I was going to use some other decks, one of which was the Light Seers Tarot, because I find them more palatable. And there was a part of me that felt like, you know, softly, gently, compassion. That feels like it's being a bit muddied this week. The waters of that are being muddied this week, in that I can even relate to this, that compassion doesn't mean it isn't said in a, you know, what am I trying to say here? Yeah, classic example. Compassion is said from the heart and from that tone, and how it's received isn't always reflective in how it's been given, and that's up to the person that's receiving it as well. So this week in particular, when you feel as if you need to get something off your chest and you've done your own reflection on it, and it is time for it to almost be expelled from the body, do so with compassion for yourself and all involved, but do so. That's what feels really important this week, to actually say our piece. Okay, so is there anything? I was not expecting that, and that may be very well be the response. Yes, okay. The other thing that I'm feeling, I thought it was because I'd gone out for a meal yesterday. I'm gripping my hands again. I thought it was because I'd gone out for a meal yesterday. I thought it was because it was the full moon coming up tomorrow. You know, I didn't sleep last night at all. And I mean literally didn't sleep. I got back up out of bed, and rather than fight what I was feeling, which heads up is very much the energy this week for the blog, which you can find on the website, but rather than fight what I was feeling, I flowed with it. I felt this overwhelming urge to write. So yes, at 2 o'clock in the morning I did get up and just write, and I haven't really gone to bed. So I thought maybe it was that I was feeling this morning, but actually my body feels as if it's purging. My body feels energetically as if the wind has been knocked out of it. My body feels as if there are no roots. My body feels as if there are big shifts beneath us, which I know there are alignments of the 3 different norths in the UK coming together, which again I wrote about. But it feels deeper than that. It feels more in relation to our own connection with the earth. So last night when I was preparing to write up the blog, well, I didn't know I was going to write up the blog, but I stood outside and I was looking at the moon, and I always get this deep sadness whenever I look up at the sky. And you know, my husband said it, well, it's homesickness, isn't it? We all get it because we come from somewhere else, and I hear that a lot, and I'm not downplaying that. But for me personally, what I felt was a real sadness that I'd forgotten that the expansiveness outside of me was actually within me, that I'd forgotten to connect to that I'd forgotten that we are from the stars, metaphysically and physically. You know, we're made of carbon and everything else, which comes from the stars, and sometimes we can forget that. And that feels really important to remember this week. Our vastness, our ability to expand, our ability to implode and explode, and our power. Yeah, our power this week, to be really, really aware of that. So don't want to get too much into the ins and outs of Taurus and the full moon. You know, we have on the one hand Scorpio, the sun is in Scorpio, and on the other hand the moon is in Taurus. So we've got real solid, fixed, rigid almost foundations, and then we have the waters that are deep and dark and taboo. So yes, there could very well be some conflict this week, remembering that we are ultimately our foundation, and how we ride those waters is down to us. And the other thing that my husband mentioned this morning, early hours of this morning, was how often we look outside of ourselves for that expansion, that greatness, that belief. And that really feels like it's going to come to the core this week, to really unite back with our own divinity and to regain that hope in ourselves. Feels really quite relevant this week. So is there anything else? I'm finding a lot of narratives, my own included, coming to the forefront, almost wanting to come through the portal with me. And I'm seeing it around me a lot as well. But there's a real fixed mentality, a real digging of the heels when it comes to the stories that we are carrying. You know, we all feel changes from the earth, and they are inconvenient and they're bloody horrible sometimes, but they are part of the human condition. Now, that's not to say that we have to suffer, far from it, but it is to say, to look at how we are caring for ourselves in these shifts, how we are caring for ourselves as guardians for this energy, what energy we are choosing to hold on to, and whether or not that is nurturing us or starving us from what it is we need this week. I'm just going to say it with compassion, the convenience that comes from holding on to old narratives. Really, really, really looking at what's behind that this week with compassion, but with honesty and authenticity. If we want the clarity that we're searching for, it is really about being open to what we're being shown this week. Okay. I think that's everything. You know, I could go on. I'm being drawn to the microphone. I'm being drawn to a picture of fire. Just really watching our communication this week. Yeah, really grounding down. And if in doubt, leave it out. Now that is excess work. You know, if you don't need to do it this week, don't. Excess communication. There's a real emphasis on, I can even feel my own throat feeling as if it's stretching open this week to allow a different form of language to come through. And it's not light language or anything like that. It's more a language of compassion and love trying to come through. This week, less is going to be more. So no repetitions of the same things. Conserve our energy on all levels. You know, we're cutting back on the amount of energy that we're spending, but that includes our own too. Conserve our energy. If we conserve our energy, then we feel safer, which means we're not in fight or flight. We don't get cold so quick. You know, it all has this knock-on effect. Conserving our energy, bringing it back to the self all the time, going within this week in particular. I hear the phrase still waters run deep. Holding space for whatever needs to come up over the next few days. By the end of the weekend, I almost feel like submerging myself, coming up out of the water by the weekend. But yeah, less is more. Okay, so on that note, I'm just going to look at the energy and how to best navigate it, which feels really poignant this week in particular. If we are looking at certain signs, synchronicities or messages, is it helping us navigate things, or is it making us tread water unnecessarily? And it is unnecessarily now. Okay. And I almost feel that, like in my root, the Queen of Wands, my root chakra is just let go, and my stomach, my solar plexus just let go. Like, I get the analogy of, you see those videos of people that breathe themselves in and buff themselves up and, want to look really great when there's people there. And then when no one's looking, they just let go. You undo your trousers and you just let go. Really this week being aware of how tight we've become, the resistance because of how other people view us, or wanting other people to view us in a certain way. Sovereignty isn't about being better. Sovereignty isn't about being looked up to. Sovereignty isn't about being untouchable or, unaffected by things. Sovereignty is about being affected, living life, experiencing it all, but being able to hold space and court for ourselves while we do that. That's sovereignty. So this week, less of the buffing ourselves up, letting it all hang out, and feeling bloody confident in that, feeling comfortable in that, in the grey hairs and the bits that we want to change and the bits we might not like so much, and full acceptance this week. Okay, so energies this week and how to best navigate it. It's powerful. I can feel it almost taking over my third eye, almost coming in and just leaving everything like I'm just, when you just switch off. I can feel that this week, the desire to just switch off from it all. I feel no message behind that other than it's an individual desire and to do what is right for us in each moment. Again, it's that compassion. Okay, energies this week. What are we up to? 11. Right. Okay, temperance. Right. So the other thing with this deck is they're lovely and small, and I can actually put them on my desk and I have space for it. So this week, making time for what you have space for, not putting more on the desk than is needed. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 2 for Sunday. Okay, Sunday. Overall, gosh, yeah. Okay. Overall, we have Temperance and the Three of Swords underneath. So, really, really, really looking at what we're taking forward now. Is it the Sacred Heart or is it the Painful Heart? Is it the gift in a situation or is it the trauma? It's really up to us. This morning I was going to say as well, so interesting, really, really, really up to us what it is we choose to now carry forward, what it is we're going to be open to, what it is we're going to receive. And there really isn't any judgment there, and it is very much about not overstretching, not pushing ourselves before we're ready. So we may be at a stage of grief, we may be at a stage of uncertainty. So in those moments, less is more. I debated whether or not to do a video this morning because my tummy felt a little bit choppy, and the plan was I was going to see how I get on. So you'll either be watching this video or you won't, because I wouldn't have carried it on. But it's about just doing our best in the moment, being okay with that, more than okay with that, recognizing just how powerful Temperance, right? Those individual steps are towards the crown that's in the distance, towards that sovereign being that we are. So overall, we have the Hierophant. Again, what lessons are we going to take forward this week, guys? What lessons are going to be the foundation, almost the dogma, the dictation of 2023 if we're not careful? There's an underlying current of the same wounds, and that isn't said with disrespect. That is said with a real recognition for awareness of just how deep these wounds go. I was going to say runes, which is interesting because today's card is the Hanged Man. But just how deep these wounds go. You know, we can think, that wound is related to that, but actually it's really, really, really unraveling them and finding the core one here, a bit like Odin, a bit like searching out, closing our eyes to what's in front of us and searching out a deeper meaning behind everything that has happened, because that deeper meaning is actually going to be us, the deeper light, the deeper wisdom, the deeper teachings now available for 2022. It's that we are being encouraged to take forward. So Monday, we have the Hanged Man, and not really much more I want to say about that, to be honest, other than this morning, even though it's raining outside and very cold, I could feel an energy under the ground that was very similar to, very similar to Easter. And I'm just thinking, why would I feel that? Well, obviously we're coming up to Christmas, right? We're coming up to Yule and the solstice as well. So this portal, whatever happens from now until then, remember, it is about getting to the end of the year. It is about getting to Christmas. It's about getting to that renewal and that rebirth. It's what it's all about. Okay, so, and it's there. It's under the ground. I could feel the seeds of potential. You know, when you get the analogy at Imbolc, from now until Imbolc, those things trying to break through. But in order to break through, what do? They're Three of Swords, they crack open, right? So whatever's happening now is from now until Imbolc and in spring, and it is very much about looking at what we're planting, looking at what's already planted. That feels quite important because it's kind of taking up the space of anything else that we're putting in place. So really deep rooting, and nurturing and holding and covering and protecting now while these things break open for us to see. Is there anything else on the Hanged Man? Well, that in itself is part of the message. Is there anything else for me to see here? Is there anything else I can discover? And again, that's going to be individual, but really looking at why we may feel the need to have more messages. What's the underlying need behind that? We're getting reflected back what it is we are experiencing right now on a level I've never seen. So if we're uncertain and we're asking for messages, why are we uncertain? Because it's more valid this week as we do go through all these changes to look at the deeper potential behind everything. And the last thing I want to mention on the Hanged Man is again that narrative that I'm finding myself and others using a lot of, and it is the sacrificial narrative. So really being aware of that. You know, again, it is very difficult when we experience things as part of the human condition. It can be very, very hard, and we cannot and wouldn't get rid of the experiences or the lessons, but it is about how well we witness ourselves, how well we nurture ourselves, how well we deliver ourselves. And that takes encouragement, that takes looking at our own thoughts, our own patterns, our own behaviours, and how we treat ourselves in these moments. That's going to be the difference this week between feeling persecuted and feeling enlightened. The only difference is our view and how we see it, and that gets affected by where we're at. So really looking at what we see, really looking at where we're at, and really looking at how we can hold ourselves through that. So on the Tuesday we have the Star card. Once we've seen all these different angles, we can see how they can all interplay into the vision that it is we're trying to achieve. Can't see the person on there at all you can see is the star, which is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Writing in this week's blog with the three norths lining up, what I really kept hearing was to find our true north. And it does feel this week that with the full moon, it's very much about looking at what it is we thought we wanted, what it is we think we need, and seeing the relevance between the two, seeing where they are balanced, seeing how they are linked, recognizing they're one and the same, and maybe adjusting, tweaking, really looking at why things haven't come up, why things have come up, how we would like them to come up, which things we no longer need, and just on the Wednesday we have the Six of Swords, so just really moving forward and away from this conflict, this emotional conflict that we have within ourselves in regards to what it is we are feeling. Because it's that's sending out the ripples. Really honing in what we feel this week, really becoming grounded, the Taurus, in our own deeper, darker emotions of Scorpio. Letting them come to light. You know, it's an eclipse and it's a lunar eclipse, so it's the sun that's blocking out the moon. So it's our masculine, our higher light that is stopping us from reflecting this week. So really looking at what gains we would have by not wanting to go deep. Okay, because then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, on the Thursday we have the World card. What happens when we see ourselves? It's great to see our own capability. You know, like today when I looked outside with the stars and everything, when you see your own potential, it's wonderful. And it is this week about keeping that balance, to see our potential but also apply it increases our potential. To see our potential apply, it can also increase our shadow and our fears with that, and our uncertainty. And the first person that needs to see ourselves is ourselves, and by the Thursday that's a real potential there. And what that does on the Friday is really open up the heart to the Ace of Cups, really helping us receive what it is we need now in order to achieve on the Saturday the Nine of Cups, the wish card. Now, what I will say on the Saturday is there's still some stubbornness there. This is what I want, this is how I want it, without seeing everything that has been manifested behind us, without seeing all the generations that may be affected, without seeing the card. Look at that. I mean, my goodness. Gosh, yeah. So every time I bring it in, it's no clearer. It just flickers. That's just so incredible. Okay, so there is, it's that resistance again, guys. It's that resistance of looking at what it is we've been wishing for, looking at it for the whole journey, the soul manifestation, looking at what it's teaching us, looking at what we've discovered about ourselves, shadow and light here, and how we balance that now into a greater vision of who we actually are. Because from that place, when we manifest from there, it all sorts into place. But it is about seeing all angles of what has been occurring, what it has been building, how it is developing in us as the creator of our own creations, and then manifesting from there. Because then on the Sunday we have the Ace of Swords and the King of Cups. No, the Knight of Cups. Interesting, because I wanted to say the King of Cups, and I was almost disappointed to see the Ace of Swords, that direct, clear channeling, and the Knight of Cups, not quite that mature masculine energy. However, the Ace of Swords is a beginning. The Knight of Cups is a nice steady flow to take that forward. So it's almost like all the clarity this week, all the shifting, all the healing, all the energy, all the portals, all of it. By the end of the weekend, we're like, I'm good to go, I'm ready. And it's like, softly, gently. Let's not do what we did before and rush in. Let's bit by bit, keeping that clear energy. All this week's energy isn't for just this week. It feels like it's almost a recipe, almost like a wish cauldron, if you will, of creativity here. So seeing things from the other perspective, including our own vision, moving forward from anything that doesn't help us discover who we are in the world, opening up to that, opening up to our own divinity, then making a wish from that perspective. And then when it comes to our mind, putting in place small, gentle, growable, heart-led steps. So is there anything else? That's pretty gorgeous, actually. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major arcanas. Massive turning point this week, and I can almost, well, not almost, I can feel that. I can feel that deep down into the earth's core. Actually, I can feel a real, what's the word I want to say, shuffling of the cards. I can basically feel a real shuffling of the fates, shuffling of the cards, shuffling of the situations right now. Shuffling of, yeah, just shuffling. I hear that song every day, I'm shuffling. I can really, really feel that. I'm just wondering now if that song's shuffling or hustling. Interesting. Okay, being aware of that this week. Are we actually moving things around? Are we actually changing things? Or are we just hustling the same situation? Sometimes there's, not sometimes, all times, there's great comfort being the best at our game. That will only get us so far. That it's really, really imperative this week that we almost take ourselves to the next level and be uncomfortable at not being the best at our game, so that we can stretch, so that we can grow. Okay, so we have Temperance, the Hierophant, Hanged Man, the Star, and the World card. Pretty self-explanatory. What lessons are we going to take forward? What is it we have emotionally gained this year? Are we still having others tell us what to do, or have we found our own divine connection, our own faith, our own trust, our own belief, our own religion in ourselves? Have we now seen ourselves as the enlightened one? Have we now found our own Christ consciousness from all the ways we have seen every sign and every angle? If so, the vision is ready for us to be seen for who we are in the world. And even if not, even if we feel like we haven't done everything that's needed, that's still part of the vision for us to see who we are in the world. So, when we look at manifestation from that point of view, if it's all about discovering who we are, then nothing is wasted. Everything is gained, and it is truly about us now, reflecting that back in everything that we do. Reflecting that back in everything that we manifest, helping our creations to be seen from different levels, helping the lessons to be seen for the medicine that they are. Massive, massive turning point with the 5 here. Okay, I will look at that in a minute. Right, we then have 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll count that one as well. So, if we count the heartbreak, if we count the 3 of Swords in the equation, we have 3 sword cards. If we count the heartbreak, underneath it is the Ace of Pentacles, that new beginning, and underneath that is the 8 of Wands, that real quick new physical beginning, and underneath that is the High Priestess. So if we can really hold space for this heart expansion this week, for anything that rises up, and take from it that one gift, that one reconnection to who we are, that one, I can't even think of the word, that one obvious, just obvious, is there a word, obvious, obviously, I don't know, but literally if we can move forward from anything else other than our own divinity, thank you, then the heartbreak will be more seen in a way of heart expansion rather than just heartbreak. When the heart breaks, it expands. When it expands, it can receive more. Now, that's not to say we have to go through misery every time. That is that sacrificial energy. We don't have to go through misery in order to be open to receive, but that, of course, is a choice. All depending on how resistant we are to receiving this week. Okay, so if we can allow that to open, if we can go into our deepest, darkest, reflective wisdom in the High Priestess, then we have physical change, and we have quick physical change here. Obviously still the Ace of Pentacles, and there's something there in respecting the stage of manifestation that the world is at the moment, in order to not keep recreating the same wish, or the same patterns behind the same wish. That feels like key. It's not about not asking for the same things, it's looking at the patterns that we're also asking for when we're asking for what we're asking for. God, that's a bit of a mouthful. Okay, we then have 3 cup cards here, the 9 of Cups, the Knight of Cups, and the Ace of Cups. Really, 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 again, looking at what it is we are wishing for, looking at how prepared we are to carry that forward, and looking at how open we are to have that received by ourselves and by others. So these are 3s, these are deliverance, okay? So they do have great potential here to birth something new, but it is looking about how open our mind is with our heart and how open our heart is to our own divinity. We then have 1 Pentacle card and 1 Wand card, and it is the Ace of Pentacles and it's the 8 of Wands, and it just feels like recognizing, thank you, that one step is a quick step, provided we see it as one step. If we see it as the whole shebang, we're going to feel disappointed because it's one step. One step in its own right does what it needs to do to get the next step and the next step and the next step, particularly this week. I get the analogy in my head of giving birth to like an adult. You just wouldn't, would you? You know, we give birth to younger scenarios of what it is we're trying to create, and they grow each time because that's all we could actually cope with, you know? Okay, so 29 minutes. It is a trippy week. My eyes are being drawn to pictures of what looked like mushrooms. on a painting that I've done, and it is quite a trippy week, and you know, we're going to feel a little bit, King of Cups, we're going to feel a little bit like so really finding our grounding in the places we wouldn't expect in our emotions. I hear a lot of people talking about boundaries, and when I hear them, they are normally in regards to other people. This week, looking at the boundaries we have with ourselves, with our own energy in motion, what it is we are feeling, and how well we listen and react to that. So, you know, if we're feeling anger, if we're feeling despair, if we're feeling lonely or anything like that, we're not actually in alignment. If we're feeling joy, we are. Now, that's not to say that those emotions are bad or negative. Anything that's outweighing anything means we're not in alignment. So this week, you know, if you're feeling choppy and you're feeling up and down, find the balance. Find the balance and flow with your own unique pace this week. In lockdown, a lot of us discovered what our creative flow was, and it does feel like it's gone back up and down for a little while, and that's necessary, because what I feel is this huge expansion of speed coming in on a cellular level, vibrating through all the cells of the body, this massive power influx coming in right when our bodies want to slow down, and there's a bit of conflict there, there's a bit of there, so that we get our bearings. And eventually, you know, what's coming through now is this, it's almost like everything is slowing down, but the amount that we can do in that slowed down period is monumental, and ease and grace. That's what I hear. It's a new ease and grace coming through based on the level we will receive it at. So is there anything else? Looking at why we don't receive ease and grace, or looking at the level we receive ease and grace, looking at what we think ease and grace actually is, because that can be, this is the last card. Okay, yeah, that can be different for everybody, right? You know, and it can be different for us in each stage. So sometimes my ease and grace is just chilled and very little done and just going with the flow. Other times I get so much done, it baffles me how I manage to do it. And that's not in an egotistical way, that's in a genuine, my goodness, there's only been so many hours in the day. It doesn't matter whether it's a chilled day or a busy day. What matters is the stasis that I have throughout of myself. I cannot control the outside circumstances. I cannot control how much my body will let me do that day. You know, what I can do is listen. And by listening, I'm aligning. And when we align to our energy and the energy around us, ease and grace. For some people, that's on the go all the time and it works for them. For other people, that's, you know, going within, working in the background, whatever. For ourselves, that can change from any moment based on our cycle. And this week in particular is a real opportunity to recognize this incredible compass that we have that constantly tells us, actually not aligned. Why would you do that? Actually aligned, go for it. Reworking with this, rewiring with this, because the last card that I wanted to pick was the 10 of Pentacles under here, and right next to it is the 4 of Cups. So it is about knowing in those times when things are quiet, not quite how we expected, slowed down for whatever reason, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you know, what we call a drought, nothing's coming in, or oh, I've got to do this but I'm just not feeling up to it, or da-da-da. Remember the balance, the sharing of wealth. Remember that actually in that moment, maybe it's your turn to receive, so that when you do go back out there again, you're going to share loads again, because we have that 10 of Pentacles. Remember what abundance is. Aini, reciprocity, the balance of us and the natural world. Our body tells us when that's happening through our emotions. So this week, if it's a time for you where inconveniently, you know, we do like to do things against our better judgment, but inconveniently, you know, we don't quite feel like doing X, Y, Z, then if you can avoid it, knowing that when you come back, you'll be stronger. Not even stronger, you'll have more to share because you've taken the time to receive it. Okay, so recognizing those moments of stillness, they're not lazy, they're not not doing anything, they're not daydreaming your life away. They are the most constructive thing you can do, because in those moments, that's where you receive. Then you share something different, then you create something different, then you speak of something different, which is why we have the Page of Wands and the Fool straight underneath. You know, I mean, gosh, you just literally, there they are. At the moment, they're not facing each other. One wants to go one way, one wants to go the other way. There's a real conflict here with how we see creativity. You know, there's a real conflict with all the beginnings that we're missing because we aren't taking time to receive something new and are therefore not creating something new. And it's feeling heavy for people, it's feeling heavy for the earth, it's feeling very confusing, like, what direction am I going in? Where is my north star? You know, where is, you know, the electro current? You know, what's going all over the place? It all needs realigning, and that starts with us. Okay, so there's, what am I going to say? There's more than enough been said, actually. More than enough been said, more than enough patterns that have been gone over. Now it's down to putting it into action. Take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I shall see you next Monday. Take care.